Hello, everyone, and welcome to the kickoff session of Beyond the Buzzword, the true meaning of experience driven commerce. Today's session will give you a brief overview of what experience driven commerce is and why it matters before launching into the two respective tracks following the customer journey, one on B2C and one on B2B. So, right now, I will go ahead and introduce you to our hosts for today, starting with Kim Williams-Czopek. She's the Director of Digital Strategy and Innovation here at Perficient. And in the past 25 years, she's led agency teams, digital product companies, and served as a VP of Digital on the brand side. She specializes in experience driven commerce, digital retail, and business strategies, as well as digital responsibility, and has been recognized as one of the top 10 women in tech by Chain Store Age and won the Mobile Innovator Award by Retail Touchpoints. Now I'll go ahead and introduce Karie Daudt. Karie has more than 20 years of experience working in B2B manufacturing and distribution. She's been involved on the client side of digital transformation and the challenges associated with a major organizational overhaul. Over the past 8 years, Carrie's been involved in commerce technology, including commerce platform evaluation, requirements defining, and roadmap planning. During her time with Perficient, she's engaged with a variety of B2B organizations as a commerce strategist, leveraging her extensive commerce knowledge and experience to deliver successful commerce transformations. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Kim and Karie to get started.
Welcome to everyone. We're so happy to be here. Karie and I have worked long and hard with all of our subject matter experts on putting together this series for you. And we're just really excited to have the caliber of folks on the line to have this kind of conversation. So just kind of giving an overview of not only the agenda for today, but kind of a structure of how the roundtables will proceed as you go through your sessions and your track. We structured this along the lines of what, why, how. As a leader in business, you're generally asked, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? How are we going to get there? And we really feel like it's important to align to those questions so that we can get you answers. So in every session, and in particular today, we want to talk about the what is experience-driven commerce? And today we're going to be talking about the Perficient holistic definition and give some examples of leaders and laggards at a high level. And then move into the why experience-driven commerce is important today, the business benefits, the customer benefits, and then how to approach experience-driven commerce and execute in your organization. And today, in the how area, we're really going to be giving you an overview of the future sessions, introduce you to the subject matter experts that you're going to be talking to, and then make sure that you understand the difference between the tracks. Come to them all, come to one of them. It's really up to you, but there will be different content in each session of each track that covers these general areas. And at the end of the day today, we really do want to open it up. We have an amazing group of attendees here. It is really meant to be a round table. So we really want to make sure that we hear from you on the things that you want to hear about in the subsequent sessions. Yes, we have everything we want to talk about, but this is all about your experience. We want to make sure we're answering your questions in subsequent sessions. Karie.
Thanks, Kim. So one of the things we wanted to start with is really talk about buzzwords, right? I always say when I came into the B2B industry, and the B2C as well, is it feels like you need to be buzzword compliant to really even function, because there's so many buzzwords and acronyms. And what we find is that it's really confusing, right? They cause confusion, they cause frustration. Everybody has a different meaning, and it really can cause a lot of confusion with your organization. So we're going to talk not about all of these buzzwords, but these are an example of the buzzwords that we really think about when we think about commerce, our experience-driven commerce, our experience. Many of these terms are going to be brought up in the session, so you're going to get some context around those as well. And experience-driven commerce is probably one of those terms that you've heard, right? And one of our objectives today is really to focus on providing you clarity and vision on what experience-driven commerce is and what it isn't.
So at a very high level, we believe that commerce success is more than a technology. It's more than a platform. It's more than an individual experience. It's more than a product release or an individual product. We really believe at the end of the day that experience-driven commerce is rooted in an organization's culture and operating model.
So let's start by talking about what experience-driven commerce is not, right? It is not a technology or a platform. I'm sure you've heard our platform is an experience-driven commerce platform, right? It's not a platform. It's not an experience or a design. I know that might sound confusing, like you're talking about experience-driven commerce, and now you're telling me it's not experience. It's not personalization, right? It's not digital marketing, SEO, it's SEM. It's not those things. It's not a capability, and it's not technical in nature at all. Well, this is really confusing. So what the heck is it?
So the way we define it, and everything Karie just talked about, those are enablers maybe, but what we really believe is experience-driven commerce is actually the result, a resulting state of an organization that has evolved from a siloed, manual, transactional approach and mindset to a customer-centric, insights-informed, omnichannel mindset that ultimately drives exponential growth by enabling meaningful customer relationships. And that's, something that could be a little abstract, but the goal of this entire series is to break that down and show you the why, what's, and hows of changing culture to ultimately achieve experience-driven commerce. And we like to kind of compare it to, we have this experience transit map, it's like any kind of experience-driven initiative can kind of be like trying to find your way in a place you've never been to in a new city on public transit. Where are you going? Where are you getting off? Where do you need to make the connections? Where are you trying to get to ultimately? And understanding how things fit together. And our goal is really to help you understand how to navigate this transit. And in terms of giving you some context on why we've broken these into two tracks, one of the things that we thought long and hard about, is we're very pragmatic, is, this is all about experience-driven commerce. It needs to be customer-centric. So how do we structure this information and encourage conversation that is really about the customer experience? And Karie and I had a lot of discussions around, customer life cycles between B2C and B2B. Are they really that different? Where's their overlap? Where's their differentiation? How is experience-driven commerce defined at each stage of the customer life cycle? And so that's how we decided to structure the whole entire series, so that we can really do a deep dive at each point in the customer life cycle and what does experience-driven mean at that point in time, and how do you really propel the customer to not only take the next step but stay in the circle. So from a B2C perspective, we're typically looking at a single person or head of household. Relative to B2B, there's usually a shorter buying life cycle. I need it now, like I need toilet paper now, I need it delivered, or could be more discretionary, but you're generally looking within a few weeks, turnaround time. There's simpler pricing. It's generally less complex than B2B. And then there's typically, different considerations at each stage of the life cycle. And this is what we'll be getting into in the subsequent sessions. At awareness, you're typically concerned with driving awareness through traditional and digital marketing channels. Obviously, SEO is really, really important, but so is mobile these days. And we'll really get into the what, why, and how around awareness for B2C. Consideration, certainly as a B2C organization, you have to have the right mix of products, services, price points, but more often today, it's an alignment on, what is your customer's personal values? How does your brand reflect that? That's ultimately how you drive loyalty. Talking a lot about, the brand as experience and consideration. Purchase and fulfillment. In the B2C world today, the name of the game is fast, flexible, instant. How do you enable that in a customer-centric way? Post-purchase and support. If experience is the great differentiator, today to attain and retain customers, and we think it is. Post-purchase and support is kind of almost a redheaded stepchild, and it's becoming the oldest child, so to speak. We're going to talk about what a contact center looks like today. How do you put together a contact center that's channelless, that enables self-service, but is still kind of white glove without a white glove cost to the organization. And then loyalty in the B2C world is hard. Everybody on the phone knows this. But it's really a $1 million opportunity for B2C. And we want to talk about how we help your organizations move from building loyal customers to advocates.
Great. Let me take a stab at the B2B one. Great job, Kim. So as we're looking at B2B, we talk, and you're going to hear a lot of this, right? And what we're hoping to do is really peel back that onion as we go through these sessions to get into more depth. So it's not just the cliches. B2B buying journeys are hard. It involves so many people. I think the statistic I recently heard is up to 7 people are normally involved in the B2B buying decision. In the buying journey. That's a lot of people, right? How do you accommodate all those people? How do you help them get through this journey? And depending on the complexity of products, people may stay in a phase longer, right? So I have a great example where I was working on a project and we stayed 12 months in the engagement consideration. Why? Because we were researching and we were evaluating products to solve a problem, and it was a very complex problem. But the rewards from that effort can be significant in B2B, right? Because we're looking at a lot of that rebuy, coming back, commitments, contracts, whatever that may look like. So B2B is very focused on the job that someone needs to do or the problem they need to solve. So when we start looking at the awareness, or in my mind, it's the identify stage. Why? Because awareness is hard in B2B. Because we may do all of these marketing activities, but until a need is triggered, nobody's engaging on that particular product, right? So when they have a need is when they identify that need, is when they want to engage. So how do you track all that money you're spending to drive those people into thinking about you when they get to that need stage, right? I used to be in sales, right? We used to call it the show up and throw up. Salespeople would show up and throw a bunch of things on a table and say, any of these things look interesting, right? That's not the way people want to engage. It's not the way that they want to work with us. So how do we do this and manage this awareness to identify when, for marketers, the challenge, because the money tree is no longer growing, right? We're all accountable. We need to be able to justify our investment and tie that to those results. So how do we do that? What does that look like? We'll be talking about those type of things. As people move into that engagement consideration stage, right? Again, we're talking about consideration includes research to figure out how to solve a problem, right? I have that need. How do I do it? The job that I have to get done. How do I do it? Who's done it before, right? How can I leverage? I don't want to be the first one. I don't want to be the bleeding edge. I want to be the leading edge, right? We hear that a lot in B2B, those type of things. There's a lot of risk aversion in B2B, and those things are important. So again, as we think about the complex needs, people may stay in these stages like a long time. They may move back and forth. So if you look at the roundabouts and the way this B2B buying journey is built out, and we're leveraging it for B2C as well, is that you may spin back and forth between multiple stages for a lot of time in order to get to where you feel comfortable with making that next stage, right? So when a B2B user, and now you may be doing a buyer, right? And I just want to call it one other thing in the consideration stage. Quoting may often be a part of that consideration stage. Again, the more complex the product, the more likely it is that quoting is going to be a part of that. So then we move on to that purchase and fulfillment stage, right? We need to get those people to make decisions faster, right? And a lot of times we talk about B2B as consideration or purchase and fulfillment, even as lead gen, right? How do we make it so that somebody can try something to sample, to get to that, to be able to become a customer to solve their problem, right? So the ability to give the right information at the right time to remove purchase barriers is critical. So we're going to talk a lot about that, right? What are the purchase and fulfillment barriers that happen to get people to not hit that button to buy and to drive that conversion in B2B? And then we're going to talk about trust, right? Because trust is such a big part of the ability to fulfill, right? So you can do all this work on the consideration phase, you can solve the problem. If you can't fulfill that order at time when they need them, it doesn't matter what you've done. People are going to move on because they need to solve these problems for their job. And then we're going to talk about post-purchase and support. That means a lot of different things in B2B. In some cases, it might be as simple as self-service, right? I need to reorder from order history. I just want to be able to do that myself. I want to know what I paid before. I want to know these things. It might be I need access to a subject matter expert, and I don't want to go through pain to get to that person. How do I get to a subject matter expert? I don't want to go through a CSR. So how do we start solving those? We talk a lot about omnichannel. How does omnichannel fit in, especially as we're looking at these post-purchase and support? The omnichannel journey goes along this whole buying journey, but post-purchase and support is a big part of that. And then loyalty. Is loyalty easier or harder in B2B? It's really hard to tell, right? The more complex the products and solutions and you solve those problems, gaining loyalty can be easier, right? I've had a lot of customers tell me, well, buying this product, nobody's ever gotten fired for buying this product. That's an interesting mentality, but how does that change as we continue to move and more options become available? You miss on those purchase and fulfillments. We just talked about that. You may jeopardize your loyalty. And then opportunities are there, and the effort that goes into loyalty can be easy and it can be hard depending on what you're really trying to solve. So as we're thinking about this and going through these next sessions, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about this and giving you the what's, the whys, and the hows to really accomplish this.
Yeah, and I think the important thing here is we just talked about a lot of, I think, critical differences between the B2C and the B2B buying journey for the customer. But the reality is as a person, a human being, you are both a consumer and a B2B buyer in your world, and those lines are blurring in terms of what you expect from a commerce experience. And you've probably heard this, and you've seen articles to that effect. But the reality is it's true. You judge your experience that's in front of you based on your last best experience. And it doesn't really matter what channel you are operating in. And that's kind of why we talk about, are they really that different? Because at the end of the day, it's the same person in the middle of those cycles.
Good point, Kim.
So the opportunity, there is a lot of opportunity in investing in experience-driven commerce, but thinking back to our transit map, you have to know where and when to invest to make an impact to the business. But we do think that there's a multiplier when you think along the lines of culturally supporting experience-driven commerce. So on the B2C side, obviously at each stage of the life cycle, there's more and more opportunity. At an awareness front, there's more strategic control, right place, right time for visibility based on what your customer is expecting and what they want, not necessarily what the organization wants. At the consideration stage, again, investing in what resonates, not buzzwords. AR and VR might be the best experience for some product assortments for companies to invest in, but for others, it's going to be a waste of money. And we really want to help you understand, how to arrive at that decision. Purchase, really, it's delivering on omni-channel fulfillment. And this isn't just about, same day delivery. This is about returns and credits and appeasements and how to really make sure that a post-purchase experience is pleasant. And again, provides white glove service at a gloveless price. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, in the loyalty, we really are looking more and more at how do we think about that total experience, or we're calling TX, and thinking about loyalty as advocates. And how do you know when you've really moved a particular customer from a loyal customer to an advocate? Lots of opportunity here to answer all these questions.
Agreed. And as we look at B2B and the opportunities for businesses, I think about the identify that awareness stage. It's really about tracking time to spend activities in return, right? As marketers, we don't have that money tree I mentioned before, right? So we're being held accountable. So the activities that we're doing need to be tied to return, and that's a really important. So for organizations that are investing in this experience-driven commerce and this approach, those are some of the things you're going to get opportunities on, is to really start thinking about how do you track and tie those activities and spend. As we look at consideration, right, research, evaluate, more exposure to new and existing products and services is a big part, right? It's hard to, I mean, I think about in all the businesses I've been in, how hard it is to really let people know all the products we sell that are relevant to them. The ability to really cross-sell and those activities and let people see, oh, if you buy this, this is the part you need. And customers appreciate that, right? Because in their mind, that makes their job easier because you're helping them. They're not going, I'm out in the middle of nowhere doing something and now I don't have all the parts I need. That's a frustration, right? And then easy access to samples or a demo, those type of things are really important in B2B. And again, the more complex the product, the more relevant that becomes. It isn't necessarily true in everything, but it's definitely true in more complex and just in certain circumstances. I need to make sure this is going to work, that this is going to work for me and it's going to solve the job that I need to do. As we look at purchase, right, some of the things we're really looking at from a business and opportunity is I'm going to increase my average order value. I want to drive more revenue. We can talk about reducing cost to serve and all those things. Ultimately, as we're investing into these activities, we're looking to drive revenue. That is ultimately what we want to do, right? That is what we do. That's what we do. We want to sell more products and so and services. And then we want those people to come back because it's easier to retain, because it's more cost value to retain what you have than to always trying to acquire new, but it's a combination of both. So that revenue piece is really critical. And then we look at post-purchase and support, right? Enable self-service. We talk about omni-channel solutions, right? And I mentioned a few examples, but the reality is what does omni-channel mean to your business? What are all the swim lanes? What are all the steps that we make customers and prospects go to that we need to solve for, right? So if we can really think of this in an omni-channel solution, and again, very relevant in this post-purchase and support, we can solve a lot of problems and become easier to do business with. And then we talk about loyalty, right? And B2C talks a lot about the increase in customer lifetime value. We're starting to use that term more and more in B2B. And one of the reasons is that not every customer we engage with should we be, right? There are customers that are going to drive significant increase in long-term customer lifetime value, and that's a goal that we should have. So what we've been doing doesn't necessarily mean that's what we should be doing in the future. And those are all the activities we're really thinking about. And again, selling more, driving that revenue is such an important part of all of these discussions.
Yeah, that's great, Karie. And I think, when we talk about the opportunities, we're very focused on, like Karie said, the metrics that matter. So everything we're talking about here today, we're looking at how it impacts ROI, how it impacts conversion, average order value, revenue. What kinds of efficiencies can we understand, based on investing in experience-driven commerce? And again, loyalty, customer lifetime value, average annual spend. Everything that we're doing here, if we invest in experience-driven commerce, should impact what we call the key KPIs here for a business. So kind of moving along the lines of still what is experience-driven commerce? Experience is the differentiator. It's the last, really, we feel, opportunity to differentiate across the sea of competitive brands. And when we work with our clients, we kind of try and understand how to invest, what are the right experiences at the right time for your customers, and what does that overall portfolio look like? So what we use is a framework called Now New Next, and it really looks at your competitive and in a lot of cases comparative set. Where else are your customers looking? And so typically, for example, whether it's B2B or B2C, we look at Amazon because we know your customer 99% sure is also shopping on Amazon. And that's just one example. But we kind of look at above the line, what are some table stakes experiences that everyone in your space is doing, about 70%? What are some new emerging experiences, 20%, that your competitive set are offering to their customers? And then what are some, really innovating or kind of first to market experiences that your competitive set is rolling out to your customers? And then kind of below the line, how do you compare as a brand? And we start there as a framework to start understanding, okay, what all of these things are possible, what's relevant to your customer, what's relevant to the business, and then we sort of prioritize. So I'm introducing this model because as you participate in the subsequent sessions, all of our subject matter experts are going to bring to the table examples, visual aids of leaders and laggards, or what's in the B2B case, art of the possible, in terms of delivering experiences, so that you get a real ground truth understanding of what we're looking at, what your customers are looking at, to judge that last best experience.
Yeah, Kim, and to what you just said, right? The now new next is great, because one of the things that we really think about is, where should you be investing your time, right? If you're not meeting table stakes or parity, don't worry about emerging and innovating, because you need to get those table stakes and those parity items down, right? So really think about where to spend your time, where to invest your money is a really big part of this, because you want to do that in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So just to give you a high level, this isn't necessarily speaking to any individual customer lifecycle point in the B2B space, but pulling out just some I would say marquee examples. You have a Warby Parker who is arrived on the scene as a DTC. Online only, cutting out the middleman, and now they've have hundreds of retail locations, physical locations. They're investing a lot in digital experiences to drive store traffic. Their account management is really stellar. You can see this is an example of me with my virtual try-on. I already had an account. I could talk to a specialist, right from the app I have. So this is a really good example of a brand that's getting it right. Even when you walk into the store, for those of you who are customers, you'll know you're greeted with a salesperson with an iPad who in a second's notice can pull up your account and guide you. Carvana is another really good example of total disruptor to the automobile industry, being able to buy or sell your car online, never going into a physical space. If you don't have to, they'll even deliver. And there's a lot of different kind of creative, I think, financing arms to Carvana that is really disrupting the industry. And then I think everybody has seen the examples of Ulta and Sephora sort of leading the pack in customer experience, but they continue to innovate, whether it's in-store experiences, whether it's digital experiences, whether it's physical experiences, whether it's embedded retail. We look a lot to the beauty industry for innovations in the experience space, because they know their customers very, very well because of the nature of the product assortment. Their customers are much more willing to give up personal information to get the right shade of their foundation. And it sounds maybe trivial, but they really set the stage for how you start talking and interacting with your customers to drive ultimately the advocacy that we're going for.
So in B2B, it's a little bit more challenging, right? Because the reality is there's very few companies that are leaders. So so we're really looking at it as the art of the possible. What can you be doing? So in B2B, a lot of times, and I know this is a distribution example, but it's true, right? A lot of people look at Grainger as like the leader in the B2B space. And they're doing some really, really cool things, right? They're using mega navigation and simple links and for common requests, making it easier for customers to find and get to the information they're looking for. They have a lot of information and transparency around availability, shipping, pickup, terms of shipment, the weight if you're going to pick it up, which is important, right? Can't bring a small vehicle if you're going to pick up a big, heavy item. So being prepared for that, and then really how terms and conditions, any of the information or things that you need to know as a buyer. They're doing some great things. They're also have some of the same challenges we all have, right? In B2B, the reality is so much of our experience in B2B is not driven by the design. It's driven by the data and the content that really drives that experience, because so much of B2B is the information that's being presented. And so a lot of us have challenge. There isn't any company I've ever worked with who hasn't had a level of data and content challenges, especially as it relates to their product. So even Grainger, as I'm going through their site and picking out examples, had a lot of challenges around data, and they're not able to achieve those things. So what's really important as you're thinking about B2B and the art of the possible is what should you work on and focus on, because you're not going to be able to do everything. And that's really an important approach as you're really thinking about your organization. And then this is iterative. You're not going to get it on the first try. There's going to be a lot of work to be done. And so the strategy around the approach becomes very, very critical in B2B. And not that it's not in B2C, but it's different because we're so data driven and so tied to our back end systems.
Great, thanks, Karie. So I think hopefully at this point we've started to give you an idea of how we're trying to redefine experience-driven commerce, not a technology, not a platform, not a single experience, not everything for everybody, and given you some high-level examples of, and hopefully a sneak peek of what you'll see in subsequent sessions. We want to kind of move into the why. So again, why invest in experience-driven commerce? Because it is going to be an investment across people, process, and potentially enabling technologies. But when you're talking about a cultural shift, there's additional considerations for investing. But at the end of the day, when you look at stats like this, and these are only 3 stats, we have many, many more that we could share with you. It's worth the investment when we just look at a top line return. These are really compelling returns on that investment. And we talk a lot about, again, being customer-centrist. We talk about, well, what are the customer benefits? What are our goals in investing in experience-driven commerce? And we kind of think about it using Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we really look at a ground level, if you're investing in experience-driven commerce, any particular initiative, understanding how it fits to what your customer is going to need, either explicitly or implicitly. So at a bottom line, functional, how does this experience perform? Is it flexible? Does it allow self-service? Is it mobile? We can't stress that enough. Mobile by design is what we call it. Is it the right set of products or services? What I want when I want it? And then basically, is it relevant to me? And we talk a lot about there you will see out in the marketplace a lot of definitions that just equate experience-driven commerce with relevancy. It's much more than that, but relevancy needs to be a cornerstone. And then we move up to like, well, how does it make me feel as a person? Does interacting with your organization at any given touch point, at any given experience, make me feel confident, savvy, productive, efficient? I mean, these are all things that, ultimately, if you're behaving as a consumer or as a buyer, you want to feel these same ways. And then kind of moving up to, transformative, how does it change my life? Does it save me or my money or my organization money? Does it make me or my organization look smarter? Does it make me or my organization look good? I mean, we're all human beings. These are things that we care about. And then ultimately, just the transcendent, how does it connect me to the world? And again, a lot of I think, connotations to this model leans toward the consumer space, but we're seeing that that's just not the case anymore. It's really blurring those lines. So, as a consumer or as a buyer, I want to be able to advocate for the brand. I want to, enjoy, if you can, the total experience. And I really want to understand how the brand aligns with either my values or my organization's values. I need to be able to justify everything I do. So when we look at customer benefits and kind of understanding how investment in any particular initiative for experience-driven commerce ties back, it needs to tie back to one of these. We should be able to answer how it addresses the foundation all the way up to the transcendent level.
And continuing on that, right, is this, we've talked about this a lot. This is an investment. Investing in experience-driven commerce is not, hey, I'm going to build a site and spin it up and everything's going to be great. It's really investing in your organization and in your future. So we think a lot about it is, how do you really build that business case to support it? Right. And the reality is, it's really about your brand and your customers, right? The communications, the interactions, how they think about you, when they think about you, why do they think about you? That brand visibility in some of those unexpected places, right? Reduction in churn. Customer attrition is a problem, right? We want to keep those customers. We want to make sure that people are engaging with us and they appreciate and that we're doing the things that they need to do their job, or they're doing the things that really drive their experience overall in those B2C type of experiences. And we want to build communities of advocates, right? We talked about loyalty versus advocacy. That's a really big important part of as we're thinking about building that business case, because there are returns on those investments in all of those activities. And we've talked a lot about data and insights, right? No longer are we doing things, or should we be doing things because it feels right or we think it's right. We want to make sure that we're using data and insights to make our decisions and to support those decisions and investments we're wanting to make. We should have customer data, right? That customer 360. We should be able to really understand what our customers want, what they need, who they are, and how we can service them now and in the future. And as their needs and change, we want to continue to adapt to those changes. Thinking about new market discovers opportunities. Again, the data can provide us with opportunities and information we may not have thought about. And then leveraging the partnerships that we have in new ways, right? How do we leverage this to really help our business grow, help us sell more products? And then it also helps us with experience with new partners, products, categories. It also, even as you think about it, this data and insight can help you guide you on what products you should be investing in. What products are people looking for, customers looking for, what do they want? All of those things become very important. We talk a lot about, and as we're looking at ROI and investment, we always talk about the levers in e-commerce, right? One of those levers is speed and efficiency, right? Eliminate overhead, right? How can we become more efficient as an organization and overall reduce our cost to serve our customers? Not in a negative way, but in a positive way, that we're doing business with them the way they want to do business with us. Efficiency gains across the organization. I always talk about high value resources doing low value tasks, right? I talk a lot about transactional intensity. We have so many high value salespeople with so much knowledge that are spending time chasing down orders, not a good use of their time. How can we do that with things like self-service? And again, time to market, focus on valuable research. I already talked about that. So it's really about how do we start thinking about speed and efficiency within our organization. And ultimately, we want to sell more products. We want to drive revenue, right? We want to sell more to our existing customers. We want to acquire new customers. We want to retain the customers we have. Maybe we want to target new markets, new industries. We want to come up with new products that allow us to go into different markets. Maybe we want to look at our channel and how we can, either disrupt or engage our channel. All of those things play a really big role in how we build our business case. And these are all part of that experience-driven commerce. It's not just about, hey, I spent this much money and I built a site, and if I build it, they will come, right? This is really about transforming the way your organization thinks about your business and how you go to market and how you're going to go to market in the future. So we've talked about the what, we've talked about why. Let's talk about the how, right? All of this is about how do we move faster? How do we engage smarter? And how do we connect deeper with our customers? Digital has the power to connect the unconnected. What does that mean, right? We have the opportunity to do things that we haven't been able to do before. We have the opportunity to reach more potential customers than ever before with digital. Physical channels, we're limited to the people who walk by or the people who are in our neighborhood or the people who come to us. In B2B, who our salespeople can engage with, right? How many calls can those salespeople make? Digital removes those barriers and potential barriers and opens up your organization. So how are we going to do it? Your business is built on the experiences that you provide and the connections you foster. And so the how is really going to be about how do we align to these activities and this vision. So let's talk about the so what. A lot of people
My favorite.
Say that, right? We talk about that a lot. Okay, you give us all this, so what?
Yes.
What does this really mean? So what? Experience-driven commerce it's going to require us to see a change. If you think that you're going to get through this without organizational change and and having to make some difficult decisions and investment, both in money and in your organization, you're wrong, right? I'm just telling you right now, you're wrong. And I would tell any client I work with that they're wrong. Organizational change management is going to be a part of this because you're going to have to change, right? You're going to have to change how you currently do things. your processes, your people, your resources. A lot of change activities are coming your way. You have to be honest about the capabilities you currently have within your organization, the skills that you have, and gaps that you need to fill. It's just that, let's rip off the Band-Aid, right? That's the reality. And you're going to be faced with some big, hairy, audacious goals and decisions. They're coming your way if you do this right, but the rewards for doing this right and investing are astronomical. Why? You know what? You've heard this a million times. Customers are demanding more than ever before. They have more opportunities. There's more competition. They don't have to stay with you. They have opportunities to find new ways to do their business. If you don't shift, you are going to fall behind, because you know what? People are changing whether you're ready for it or not. This is not an internal out point of view. This is an external in point of view. How are you going to meet the needs and exceed the needs of your customers today, tomorrow, and in the future? And what are those changes going to be? Be ready, be predictive, be ready to be productive, resolve, and you need to move quickly, right? We're no longer seeing 18 months timeframes to get this going, right? We're seeing, what can we do in 6 months to build a solid foundation? How can we get going? We understand this is going to take time, but we want to get moving and in the right fashion as fast as we can. How? New strategies, new operating models, completely different roadmaps, completely new ways to interact with customers, new people, new processes, new technologies, new capabilities, right? All of this is aimed at providing that game-changing omnichannel commerce experience at every step of every customer journey. And then that's how you win.
Thanks, Karie. Let's get to the good stuff finally. Like, who are you going to be hearing from? Who are our subject matter experts? Who are you going to get to be talking to in the next few weeks to really answer the what, why, and how? On the B2C track, we have at the awareness stage, Eric Enga, Leanne Johnson, Grant Davies, all experts in your field, in their fields. Eric in particular is sort of the godfather of search engine optimization. If you haven't heard of him or know him, look him up, and he's amazing. Leanne is coming to us from the Milwaukee Bucks, where she ran their digital marketing program. So she has a lot of strong customer experience examples and tactics that she can share. And Grant Davies is our mobile expert. So he's going to talk to you all about mobile by design and why that matters at the awareness stage. Realizing active customer engagement through experience-driven commerce. These are our Perficient Labs guys. Tyson Dunn and Gabriel Jimenez have done some amazing customer experience-driven hardware and software demos. They're going to bring those to the table. They're going to show you how, why, and what, and really kind of, I hope, blow your mind on, what is art of the possible in the consumer space today. Skip Martin and Joseph Willett are experts in purchase and fulfillment. They're really going to talk about how do you drive conversion? You got someone onto your experience, you've engaged them. Now, how do you get them to buy and really make it worth their while? Justin Racine and Laura Lee Pond are experts in just contact center and post-purchase experiences, whether it's, putting together a world-class clienteling program or just offering better self-service for your customers. They're going to be giving you a lot of great examples and tactics on how to achieve, again, kind of that white glove contact center. And then Kevin Espinosa and David Stallsmith are part of our digital strategy team, and they're really going to be the ones driving home the message around turning your loyal customer into advocates and understanding what advocacy means today. And I think we talk a lot about in that session, are you even really a consumer brand if you don't have a loyalty program? But a loyalty program isn't enough anymore, and they're going to be talking about that. So we're really excited to bring you this set of folks talking about, B2C experience-driven commerce. I will continue to serve as moderator for these sessions. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all again in this track. Karie, do you want to give us an overview of the B2B folks?
Absolutely. So just a slide flips. There we go. So you're going to see some similar people, and you're going to see some differences. So I won't go through every single person. As we look at awareness in the B2B track, right? Again, Eric Inga, and I think he literally did write the book on SEO. He's a brilliant man, and if you don't know him, you should, right? I'm super amazed every day when I work with Eric. Justin Racine is one of the senior commerce strategists that I work with directly. He's an amazing person. He knows the space incredibly well, and he's going to provide a significant amount of point of view and the what, the why, and the how as you look at awareness or consider or identify, as I've called it out as well. And then Grant Davies, who's the mobile, really the mobile first, not just responsive, but really mobile first. And what does that mean? As we move into that active buyer engagement, we're really going to be talking to Mike Rabior, who is our principal strategist as part of the commerce team, and Ritesh Kaskar, who is a director of the in the commerce practice. Ritesh really knows that product information, that PIM, those pieces of information that really drive that engagement and get customers to move along with you. As we continue to look at purchase and fulfillment, you're going to see Skip Martin, who's going to come in, and we're going to talk about, and myself, we're going to talk about purchase and fulfillment and what that means in the B2B spaces, and the what and the why and the how do you accomplish that. As we move on to those post-purchase and support, again, you're going to see Justin Racine and Lorelei Pond, who we already talked about on the last slide, but they're going to really be talking about what that post-purchase and support looks like in the B2B space. And then we're going to move into Kevin Espinana, who's a new person who has a vast amount of experience in loyalty. He's going to join again Justin Racine to really talk about that on the B2B track. And as Kim mentioned, I will stay involved as a moderator and will participate in one session as well, but we're really looking forward to working with you. And I think as you think about the tracks B2C or B2B, I'm hoping you're recognizing the fact that the B2B track, regardless if you're going to market with guest checkout, if you're not going direct to the consumer, the B2B track may be the right place for you. It may be you want to do both, right? We want you to know that we're really welcoming and opening you to whatever makes the most sense for what you really hope to get out of this.
And that's a great point, because, what we wanted to make sure everyone knew is when we're talking about all these why, what, and hows, and that experience-driven commerce is an investment. A lot of the questions we got back was like, well, we're already executing. Does it make sense for me to attend? Or we're kind of in the middle of strategic planning. Does it make sense for me to attend? And I think the answer is yes, just a blanket yes. Ultimately, if you're already executing, that's okay. If you're in the middle of the strategy planning, that's okay. Ultimately, you might have people sitting at two different tables talking about these things. But as you all know, as practitioners, it doesn't matter. It's the same room. That's kind of how we picture it here. It doesn't matter what door you go in. You're either going to be executing and backing up into, wait, why are we doing this? What is it exactly that we're doing? Or on the strategy side, you're kind of answering the what and the why, but then you've got to get to the how. So we really hope that, again, whether you're in the middle of executing or you're in the middle of your planning, you're going to get something out of these sessions. And ultimately, again, tying it back to the transit slide, where am I going? How am I going to get there? Is that final destination really where I want to be? We want you to be able to leave this entire series at, being able to answer the question, what should I do? How do I get there? And why is it the right thing? Really addressing any of the uncertainty you have in a pretty uncertain time right now. So I know we are getting close to time, and Karie's going to wrap us up. But one of the things we just wanted to let you know is if this is the only session that you're able to attend, again, thank you for attending. But if anything here was interesting to you, we do have a couple of what we call kind of jump starts or ways to get going with thinking about experience-driven commerce that are quick, fast engagements, but start getting at the what, why, and how. So if these are of interest, certainly you can reach out to myself, to Karie, to anyone on the Perficient side, and we can talk a little bit more about this. But let's really talk about what's important here, you all.
Try to wrap up as quickly as we can. I know that this session was very webinar-y, and we felt like it needed to be, right? But the reality is the remaining sessions are not. We're going to be spending 15 to 20 minutes going through the what, the whys, and the how, and then it's really about you, right? This experience is all about you. Bring your questions, bring your thoughts, bring your challenges. You're going to have direct access to over a dozen industry recognized experts and thought leaders in this field for free. And unheard of, right? I mean, completely unheard of. And we want this to be about you. We want you to learn, to share, engage. We want you to come away with answers and actions. Register, right? Just because you can't make all the sessions doesn't mean you shouldn't come, right? Please come as many as you can. We really want you to be able to take advantage of these sessions. We will record sessions, but remember, it's not going to include the roundtable portion, right? And that's where we really think the value is. It's not about us talking. It's about us answering your questions and helping you. And again, we want to hear from you. We want you to be engaged. Be prepared with your questions, right? And maybe things come up along the way, but we really want this to be about you. And if we've missed anything that you think is really important, that's interesting to you, please reach out to Kim, myself, LinkedIn, whatever you need to do, so that we can make sure that those items are addressed either in this session or we can do it in another session to make sure that you get answers to the questions that you have.